Tentative timetable released for what to expect from the UAP Congressional Task Force over the next few weeks. Mars colonization will lead to extraterrestrial disclosure, according to former NASA scientist. Important UFO revelations by a former presidential advisor. It's been confirmed that documents exist pertinent to claims of the James Webb Space Telescope having discovered something in deep space that led to a classified briefing by NASA to the US Congress. UAP records possessed by the National Archives primarily concern unidentified anomalous phenomena that rarely involve national security. Earth is a prison planet controlled by imperial, immortal entities that siphon off soul energy. These stories and more on Exopolitics Today, the Week in Review.
You're listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla, your source for the uncensored truth regarding the human, extraterrestrial, global, and political agenda. Click the like button and subscribe to this channel. And now, here's Dr. Michael Salla.
Welcome to the April 26th edition of Exopolitics Today, the Week in Review. Very happy to be back and able to talk about some of the breaking news in the exopolitics world. So I want to begin today with this post by JP, who I'm sure many of you know is someone that I've been featuring and written books about over the last few years. Well, he has his own Twitter channel that's called @JP_arcs. So definitely I recommend that you join that to see his posts on various issues. And he posted something concerning the recent growth in stories about time travel. And a couple of years ago, we did an update where he described encountering some time travel technology on a military base. And it's since been announced that that military base is actually Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. So this is the time travel video clip that he used from that earlier story a couple of years ago. It goes for just under 2 minutes, so let me play that for you now.
I saw somebody coming back from 2050, and he blurred into existence, and he was wearing just different clothes, and they take him really fast to another room. They cleanse him. They take his clothes off. They give him a different clothes. And he was walking towards the 1550s room. And I'm like, holy shit, what the hell is this? And everybody's like, what the hell? What the heck is this? Holy crap. This is crazy. So everybody was like just nervous and exciting at the same time that we have this. But I was asking, well, what are we doing here? He says, no, we're just looking. I said, this is just to investigate certain things and to see how the future of which people ends up to where, and like they have this on other countries too. I can't tell you the exact countries, but there's 3 other countries that have this type of technology, but they use it a different way. Yeah, I was asking, okay, so if you enter into a time, right, and time travel is not invented yet, so how can you go back into that particular time or forward in time? He says, wait, you mean time is not, the scientist was telling me this, he said, you mean time was not invented for human? No, there's ETs that have invented time travel maybe 100,000 of years ago. You have to understand that. So it's not just human beings. See, human beings got a concept of time travel. See, you guys, we have learned the time travel of sound, of capturing light and all that. And like I thought of it, like it kind of makes sense. You know, people that are going to hear this interview are hearing a voice of the past.
Okay, so that was an update we did a couple of years ago on Exopolitics Today. You can go to my website to get all the updates with JP, and you'll find one on the time travel. Now, I believe I misspoke. The facility that JP mentioned, as I recall now, wasn't on Eglin Air Force Base. He said it was somewhere else, and he couldn't reveal the location. So that's important to clarify. Now, 1550 is one of the 4 times that JP mentioned. I think he mentioned 2090, 2050, 1945 and 1550. Now, 1550, why would that be a significant date? One, it's around the time of when you had these big UFO clashes or wars, drone wars in Europe around that time, and so you have famous, I think there's the Nuremberg, and I think another one in Bern, Switzerland, that showed these UFOs battling. Now, what might that be about? Well, according to a book, a German book, which unfortunately has not been translated into English, up until the 1550s, surface humanity openly traded and interacted with inner Earth humans. And so that interaction led obviously to a lot of developments on the surface. And at some point, it seems that whatever disagreements over policy that existed concerning advanced technologies kind of led to these UFO battles. And that's when the Pope decided that all further interaction and communication with the inner Earth beings would be stopped. All the tunnels were sealed. So this might be why, as far as time travel is concerned, 1550 is a date, because not only do you go back and you kind of learn about human society at that time, but this is also a time when surface humanity was openly interacting with inner Earth civilizations. Okay, so here is what I think is an excellent overview of Vimanas by Jason Wilde. So this is what he has to say. Vimanas were not symbolic metaphors for spiritual ascent. They were aerial vehicles described in excruciating detail across Hindu, Jain, and Buddhist texts, with standard semantics that read like ancient aerospace manuals. The word Vimana literally means measuring out, traversing, and it refers to craft that can move across space, sky, and in some cases through dimensions. They weren't flying carpets or myths. These were flying machines, described, named, diagrammed, and most importantly, piloted. And he goes on to describe the Vaimanika Shastra that was rediscovered in the early 20th century, and the various details it gives about the construction and composition of these Vimanas. So it's quite a lengthy post on Twitter. You can find it on my Twitter feed, and if you just scroll down, you'll see this post by Jason Wilde, and it is a very good summation, I think, of Vimanas. And so there you have depicted in some artwork Vimanas and Krishna, who's part of the Hindu pantheon. Okay, now here is a tentative timetable for what to expect from the UAP Congressional Task Force over the next few weeks, according to Representative Anna Luna. So for those of you that aren't aware, a task force was formed by members of Congress that are interested in the UFO issue and want to bring about disclosure. They did want to create a permanent select committee on UFOs, as I understand it, but so far there hasn't been enough support. So instead what they did was they created this congressional task force. So there is interest in the US Congress by about, I think it's half a dozen House of Representative members that are part of this bipartisan intergovernmental investigation. So this is the timetable that they have. So April 29, next week, a sensitive compartment information facility brief with UAP experts. So that's where the role of David Grush becomes important, because he recently took up a position as a senior advisor to one of the members of this UAP task force in the Congress. And he is going to give them a briefing inside of a skiff, because Grush has regained his security clearance. So now he can talk about some of the people, some of the corporations that he knows are involved in UFO crash retrieval operations and reverse engineering of non-human craft. So he can talk about that in a skiff, but nowhere else, which is why there's been this kind of struggle with David Grush in terms of granting him the security clearance so he could safely talk about this without being arrested. So this apparently is going to happen on April 29, and the members of Congress are going to hear from David Grush and others about some of these classified programs, the individuals involved, and the corporations involved. Now, whether anything will come of that, we don't know. We can only hope. So April 30, May 1st, roundtable with experts, officials, and members of Congress. So this is where the information that was learned from the previous day's briefing in the skiff will be discussed in a roundtable format. Now, I don't believe this is going to be open to the public. It's a roundtable with experts, officials, and members of Congress. I don't think it's an open hearing. And then the week of May 12, we have the full committee hearing on UAP. So that'll be when you do have a public hearing where whatever is distilled from this skiff briefing is discussed by members of Congress. So looks like we're going to be having a very interesting month coming up in May as this briefing occurs and David Grush finally is able to reveal some of his information. Okay, now here is something that is very disturbing. Now, JP, he did a video on the last couple of weeks. It actually goes for 17 minutes, so I can't play it for you now. But in this video, JP, he actually shares some of the issues that he's been struggling with, which includes stopping over at a hospital to have health issues checked. And these were cardiac issues similar to my own that were happening at the same time. So, and what is even more interesting is that he had this experience on a Delta airline that tried to land in Pensacola, Florida, 3 times. 3 times it tried to land and was unsuccessful. And interestingly, JP described how on at least one of the flights, there were many elite military personnel on the flight. So this is kind of quite bizarre, as is the timing of JP's cardiac issues, similar to my own. At the same time, I was actually hospitalized and I communicated with JP and he was in a hospital at the same time. I mean, that's more than coincidence. And I've talked about that last week, so no need to continue. So let me now discuss with you. Next week, I believe it is May 6th, is the beginning of the next round of courses, which will be the summer offering of courses for the Exopolitics Institute. So this is a series of courses that you do. There's 6 courses that are offered this summer, and they are part of a program which has been running for over 15 years now through the Exopolitics Institute, which is a 501c3 organization, and you can get an Exopolitics certificate or Exopolitics diploma. I mean, today, that is probably not something that you could go to a prospective employer and get a job with, but things change, and the day will come when exopolitics will be actually valued as a discipline, understanding all aspects of the extraterrestrial phenomenon. So for those of you that do this course or do the program, you'll kind of like have a heads up. You'll be able to have a certificate, and you will be well ahead of the curve when the rubber hits the road and exopolitics becomes a important scientific discipline studied in every university around the United States and around the world. So there's a trailer, Exopolitics Courses Summer 2025, and you can access that trailer through my website. Through my Twitter feed, or just go to Exopolitics Courses Summer 2025. Just type that into YouTube, and that will give you the trailer. So I highly recommend those courses. Okay, so this is something I covered last week. That is, the Cambridge-led team of scientists discovered biosignatures on an exoplanet in the Leo Constellation. So that led to a lot of excitement, a lot of speculation. The planet has more than 1,000 times the level of the two biosignatures found on Earth. So it's believed that it is teeming with life. So the scientific community is still very divided on this. Many scientists are skeptical, saying that this has not been confirmed, or that this Cambridge-led team have, let's just say, read into the data. So there is a lot of scientific debate over the significance of this. Has life been discovered or not? There is still confirmation that needs to be made that this actually was a discovery of a biosignature or biosignatures, and that extraterrestrial life has been discovered on that planet. But nevertheless, those scientists that think that the data is quite rigorous and want to run with it, they say, well, this is now leading to speculation. Well, if you found life on one exoplanet, then there's probably millions of exoplanets with life. So this is now starting to kind of like grow in the scientific community that there are millions of exoplanets with life. Now, it's hard to believe that in the early 1990s, scientists didn't even believe that exoplanets existed. They would say, well, there's no evidence for exoplanets. And then I think it was 1996, the first exoplanet was discovered. And then you had the Kepler Space Telescope. And by 2010, they discovered hundreds of exoplanets. So I think we're going through the same process here as far as biosignatures and exoplanets with life. At the moment, a lot of the scientific community are skeptical or dismissive of any evidence of biolife or extraterrestrial life on distant exoplanets. But pretty soon that will change, and there'll be hundreds, thousands, millions of exoplanets that are identified by scientists using the James Webb Space Telescope, saying that, these have life, and this biosignature is pretty clear. Okay, so here is an interview I did with Dr. John Brandenburg, who is an expert on Mars. He is a former NASA scientist, and in the 1980s, he, in his analysis of the Mars orbital and lander instruments, discovered or believed that there was evidence of an ancient ocean on Mars. So this was something he actually presented on at a scientific conference in 1986. Well, the thing is that recently very recently, the ocean's existence was confirmed by Chinese scientists studying the recent data from China's Mars rover. So that's kind of put NASA in a quandary. It's like, well, one of our scientists, Dr. Brandenburg, discovered this ocean back in 1986. So the ocean clearly should be named after him. It should be called the Brandenburg Ocean because he was the discoverer of it, and the Chinese just confirmed its existence. But the problem for NASA is that Dr. Brandenburg is an outspoken advocate of UFOs and life on Mars. And so that has created this kind of problem where NASA is kind of like holding back, and they have not named this ocean after him, which is kind of like scandalous because typically oceans are, or discoveries on planets or moons are named after the discoverer. Well, here's the other kind of thing we discuss in the interview is that he discusses what he thinks is a plan, a soft disclosure plan to reveal the existence of ancient extraterrestrial life that will then open the door to admitting that UFOs, some of them are extraterrestrial and they are visiting us today. According to Dr. Brandenburg, his soft disclosure scenario is that Elon Musk will be able to land some of these rockets, some of these Starliner? No, not Starliner. I'm getting a brain block on that. He's Starships. He's going to land his Starships on Mars, and eventually there'll be manned Starships landing on Mars. I think the earliest date for the first manned Starship to Mars is 2029. And according to Dr. Brandenburg, they will begin to excavate the Mars surface and, lo and behold, discover ancient artifacts, which will prove that life did exist at one time on Mars. And if extraterrestrial life existed in Mars' ancient history, that will kind of like shape public perceptions so that the public is more receptive to the truth about extraterrestrials visiting us today in UFOs. So that's his scenario, very plausible. So let's see what happens. I mean, we are talking a few years yet before the first manned Starship landing on Mars, but it will be very interesting how quickly they'll begin excavating and whether, and I'm pretty sure they probably will be transparent over whatever they discuss. Okay, well, Pope Francis died early this week on Easter Monday. And I expressed my view about Pope Francis that I had mixed feelings about it. I mean, there were things about his policy that progressives loved. I like some of his policies as well. But then there were conservatives and who believed that he sold out the Catholic Church to globalists. And I think that that's also has elements of truth in there. But regardless of who officially heads the Catholic Church, it's good to remember that real power comes from behind the scenes. Now, some believe this to be the Black Pope, head of the Jesuit order. But I believe the true power are reptilian entities as symbolized in the architecture of the Pope Paul VI Assembly Hall. Now, for those of you that maybe are not familiar with this Assembly Hall, it was built by the Vatican and as their major auditorium in Vatican City. So here you have the actual architecture of the auditorium, and it's like the roof has this very strange shape, and you can see something on the side here like eyes, very strange shape that resembles a snake. Very interesting. You know, you have the nostrils here, you have the eyes here, and you have the kind of like curving head here. Okay, some people would say, well, you know, that's just interesting, doesn't really prove much. Well, inside of the Pope Pius Auditorium, you see this. And now this does resemble, this is from the back looking forward to the front of this auditorium. At the front here is where the Pope would sit and the cardinals would sit during high-level Vatican meetings or presentations. And it does have the look of a snake, of a viper. And there again, the snake, the viper. Look at that. And even more disturbing, there's more photos of that, is this thing here. Is this statue of supposedly Christ. Now let me see if I can get a close-up of that. There you go. See, you look at this. Okay, here we have this kind of statue right there, front and center, in the center of this Pope Paul auditorium, and right behind the lectern is this statue supposedly of the crucified Jesus. But when you look closely, it's kind of like, okay, here you have what does look like a human figure, right? So yeah, some would say, well, that's the crucified Christ, okay? But then if you look at it, take another look, it looks like a reptilian. So that to me symbolizes the true power in the Vatican, that it is a reptilian infiltrated organization where those at the very top are compromised and get to do the bidding of reptilian entities. And I think that's the same with all major institutions, whether we're talking about the US Congress, that reptilians or their, let's just say, their people, those that have sold out or been compromised, infiltrate organizations. And the Catholic Church is definitely, in my view, one of the central institutions that have been infiltrated and taken over by these reptilians. Some call them the Draco reptilians. And that is why the Vatican, that's why it has so much power. All right, here we have some insights by this particular Twitter feed, the Disclosure Party, on the non-interference principle or the zoo hypothesis. So I thought this was very, very interesting, well worth taking a look at what this Disclosure Party had to say. So happy Earth Day. So why are we here? The zoo hypothesis suggests that Earth is being observed by one or more intelligent species of life who have chosen not to directly contact humanity out of respect for our development. Similar to conservationists, they may have adopted a policy of non-interference. So here's the contradiction. What if the non-interference isn't coming from them, but from humans themselves? The uncomfortable truth is that the US military and intelligence community has actively suppressed information about non-human intelligence for decades. Unfortunately, this decision appears to be motivated by institutional self-preservation and designed to shield defense programs, government officials, and entire agencies from oversight and accountability. So that's about all I wanted to read. Let me read the final sentences. Our leaders aren't preparing us for the next stage of civilization. They are actively disqualifying us from evolving because they themselves refuse to evolve morally. The zookeepers aren't aliens. They're us. So what this is, the bottom line here is that people would assume that the non-interference principle applies to the extraterrestrials that are visiting us at this moment, which is absolutely correct. They do follow a non-interference principle, but the real reason that disclosure hasn't happened isn't because of the extraterrestrials. It's because of these controllers, these elites are the ones that don't want to disclose, because the extraterrestrials are very clearly in favor of disclosure, which is why they meet so many individuals privately and share so much information about themselves and do overflights with their craft. It's really the controllers that don't want disclosure to happen. So I thought that was I thought these were very helpful insights into the non-interference principle as it applies to extraterrestrials. Okay, so now we get to a interview that Jesse Michaels did with a former presidential advisor, Harold Malmgren. And I thought he made many excellent observations concerning the UFO phenomenon. So this is some of the summary of what Harold Malmgren said in his interview, which lasted, I think it was just under 4 hours. So it's a long interview. I did watch it, very well worth watching. Harold Malmgren reminds me a lot of William Tompkins, who I got to interview a few times, and he lived till 94, I believe it was, and before he passed away. But he shared quite a lot of information with myself and Dr. Robert Wood, who himself recently passed away at the ripe old age of, I think, 94, 95. So Jesse Michaels begins with Harold Malmgren as a 27-year-old, how he literally saved the world by distracting General Curtis LeMay, who was very gung-ho about responding to the Russians who were putting nuclear missiles into Cuba. And Curtis LeMay, I mean, he was all for, letting the bombs fly off and solving the problem through a preemptive or an overwhelming first nuclear strike on the Soviet Union. Now, Harold Malmgren apparently was told by the Secretary of Defense, Robert McNamara, to distract LeMay, to just kind of like buy time for diplomacy to happen. And so Malmgren apparently sat down in the room with Curtis LeMay and the other generals and just asked a bunch of questions. And because those questions kind of like focused LeMay in away from the bombing of Cuba or of the Soviet Union, then essentially they kind of calmed things down in I think that was the Situation Room or whatever it was they called the room where the national security top leaders met to discuss these things. And so this was something that Harold Malmgren did. And so this was part of his resume that made him famous. Now, apparently the Soviets saw him as someone that was special because his uncle was a chess grandmaster. And so they thought that this was likely to be a quality that Harold Malmgren possessed as well, or that they felt that he had similar kind of qualities in terms of intelligence and strategic abilities to think ahead and so forth. So these are some of the things that Malmgren claimed in his 4-hour interview as summarized by Jesse Michaels. And this is quite good. If you don't have time to sit through a 4-hour interview, these are very good points that really summarize what happened. So he held some UFO material directly, and that this material came out of the plume of a nuclear test called Bluegill Triple Prime that was conducted at Johnson Atoll in the Marshall Islands in 1962. And it was handed to him by the director of the Atomic Energy Commission for the Albuquerque branch, Lawrence Preston Guys, who happens to be Jeff Bezos's grandfather. Very interesting. Okay, so the second point, the Deputy Director of Plans for the CIA, the Deputy Director of Plans for the CIA and the man who built and designed Area 51, that's Richard Bissell, briefed Malmgren on otherworld technologies. This includes the past crash retrievals like the Magenta crash in Lombardy, Italy, along with broader awareness of UFO appearances around different Department of Energy sites around the country. So Malmgren was told by Richard Bissell about the Lombardy, Italy crash in 1933. Now, that was something David Grush also talked about when he came forward in July of 2023. And all this confirms the release of documents by Italian researchers such as Dr. Roberto Pinotti concerning these Italian fascist area documents discussing that particular crash in Lombardy, Italy in 1933. So we have multiple points of corroboration that there was a UFO crash in Italy in 1933, and that eventually this made its way into Allied hands and ended up at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Okay, a member of foreign intelligence sent Harold information on a secret anti-gravity related collaboration between Nikola Tesla and Thomas Townsend Brown. So there have been rumors for many years that Tesla and Townsend Brown worked on the Philadelphia experiment, looking at what would happen with these high voltage electrostatic charges in terms of making a ship invisible to radar and even making it disappear altogether in a portal. Apparently, Tesla pulled out of that once he realized the danger it posed to naval servicemen. But here you have corroboration from Malmgren that there was indeed this collaboration between Tesla and Thomas Townsend Brown concerning anti-gravity related research, and I would say that would probably extend to the Philadelphia experiment. Number 4, he told his daughter Pippa about his final hours. And so Malmgren, this interview by Malmgren actually was almost a deathbed testimony, because he died, I think, within a week of it being released. I mean, very suspicious, if you like, but certainly no one is saying that he was bumped off because of his revelations, but still the timing is very suspicious. But he was very old, I think 88, and certainly someone that had decided to spill the beans on everything he knew. So he told his daughter, Pippa, who is also, Dr. Pippa Malmgren, during his final hours that there had been a UFO crash with survivors, and he was shown a video of the sole surviving extraterrestrial from one of the crashes, which presumably was Roswell. So Harold was here saying that he had seen video of the surviving extraterrestrial from the Roswell crash. Number 5, Malmgren says point blank that he believes JFK knew about UFOs long before becoming president from his history in naval intelligence. And that's absolutely correct. I actually wrote a book on JFK and the UFO connection. It's called Kennedy's Last Stand. And indeed, JFK was actually a member of naval intelligence at the same time as the Los Angeles air raid incident. And there were claims, or there were leaked documents saying that Navy intelligence got its hands on a crashed UFO. So at that time, Kennedy was in naval intelligence. Very likely that he learned about it, but he certainly learned about the UFO phenomenon at the end of the Second World War in 1945, when he traveled to occupied Germany with no less than the Secretary of the Navy, James Forrestal, who 2 years later would become the very first Secretary of Defense. And Forrestal was very knowledgeable about the UFO issue, about what it was that the Navy wanted to bring back home. So yes, JFK knew a lot about the UFO issue. So Jesse Michaels goes on. He and LBJ raced out to Los Alamos right after the Bluegill Triple Prime to be briefed in person. So this incident happened during JFK's presidency, and Malmgren says that JFK's desire to collaborate with the Soviets on UFOs, space exploration, and denuclearization were core parts of the impetus to assassinate him. Well, that's exactly what my conclusion is in my 2013 book, Kennedy's Last Stand. And I give the details for that and the leaked documents, as well as the declassified documents that all support that JFK was collaborating with Nikita Khrushchev and the Soviets on sharing UFO information, and that this led to him being assassinated because the head of the CIA's counterintelligence division was responsible for keeping the secrets. So Malmgren, number 6, Malmgren discusses the Majestic, the group who took it upon themselves to protect the world. Okay, so he's talking about Majestic 12 here, that this actually was a very real group, and that they tracked people from a very young age of superior intelligence or other qualities that made them someone of interest to the Majestic 12 group. And that Majestic 12 group is the same group that was mentioned in the Majestic documents leaks in the 1980s and 1990s that Dr. Robert and Ryan Woods have researched and confirmed over the years. So I agree that Harold Malmgren is a very special individual. He revealed some of the most important truths concerning the UFO cover-up to the world prior to his death. So yeah, he definitely needs to be recognized as someone that has made a major contribution, similar to people like William Tompkins, Philip Corso, who decide shortly before their death to come out and reveal the full truth of what they know. Okay, so here's further corroboration. Jesse Michaels. Okay, just talking more about. Let's see. Okay, I think I'm going through the same. Okay, so Christopher Sharp. Okay, here making the point that the 1933 crash had been confirmed by Malmgren as something that the CIA's Richard Bissell was not knowledgeable about. So yeah, I agree that this is important corroboration for these fascist era documents that were first released to the public by Italian researchers. Okay, so here is a very interesting video. This is from Carb, who is, I believe he's I don't know if he's a contactee, but I believe his mother is a contactee, and he reports on his mother's experiences and her telepathic communications with the Pleiadians. So he says something very interesting concerning the bruised or bleeding left eye of people who have appeared in public, VIPs who have appeared in public, and he comes up for an explanation for what is actually the reason for that kind of black eye or that bruised or bleeding eye. He thinks it's a side effect from a direct hardwired connection through the eye to extract and transfer memories for rapidly grown clones. So he's saying that when you see these public officials with black eyes, it's not because it's a parasite or adrenochrome going through their eyes. It's because they had some hardwire connection through their eye to transfer memories for rapidly grown clones of themselves. And so he cites this segment, this extract from the movie The Sixth Day. So let's play this. Hopefully we don't run into a copyright issue. Let's play it.
And right here?
Yes, just like that. All done.
Didn't feel a thing.
Now I need to check your vision. Place your chin here. Look straight ahead.
Right here?
Mm-hmm.
Did you blood test all your pilots?
Pilots, drivers, security people, assistants. Basically anyone who comes in contact with Mr. Drucker.
You had me cloned.
Yes.
Well, you cloned the wrong man. How did you do it? You had to have my, what do you call it?
Your SIN coding, we had it, yes.
Well, give it to me. I want my life back. How did you get this? I haven't been...
Here.
Vision test.
Only it didn't test your vision, it took your SIN coding, an exact picture of your mind. And it took a sample of your DNA, and with those two things, we can clone the person in 2 hours. We had you in file, so to speak, so that we could act quickly when we were told that you were killed.
Okay, so there you have what really is soft disclosure in this film, The Sixth Day. And here you have some examples of people with a black eye or a bleeding eye, which suggests that these people were cloned. So here you have, I think that's Joe Biden, I'm not sure who that is, Biden again, Queen Elizabeth, Barack Obama, again, another VIP I don't recognize. But these people show up in public fora at an event. They have a black eye or they're bleeding in one of their eyes. And one explanation is what we just saw, that some kind of recording was taken of information from their retina, and somehow a wire was inserted or something was inserted that led to those memories being extracted for rapidly growing clones. Now, can this be true? Well, cloning is very real. I mean, this is something that many people have talked about over the years. And I came across this researcher or this whistleblower, Dr. Michael Crevant-Wolf, who was a scientist and a colleague of Dr. Hal Puthoff. People think that Dr. Wolf was a fake. Well, he actually was having frequent phone conversations with Dr. Hal Puthoff, and that was verified by a UFO researcher, Paola Harris. So according to Dr. Wolf, he played a direct role in the first US clones that were developed in the 1970s. So cloning has been around for 50 years, at least as far as the US is concerned. Now, according to William Tompkins, the Nazis developed cloning back in the 40s. I mean, think of that. That's quite remarkable. All right. So here's something from John Greenwald, who runs the Black Vault. And he said that essentially what happened was that there were rumors of Congress receiving a classified briefing from NASA concerning something that had been discovered by the James Webb Space Telescope. And Greenwald thought that he would do a FOIA request, see if there was any documentation showing that such a classified meeting had actually occurred. So the first response to his FOIA request was that no classified meeting existed and there were no documents naturally pertinent to that. So he thought that the rumors were false and he put that out. But he nevertheless appealed against the ruling and won. And now they've found documents. So that suggests that there are documents concerning a classified briefing that NASA gave to the US Congress concerning some of the James Webb Space Telescope data. Now, what that was, we don't know because the documents haven't been released. But I thought that this was actually a significant development. It shows how the FOIA process actually, when used by people that know how to write FOIA requests and how the system operates, can actually produce some very useful documentation. All right, so we're back to Harold Malmgren, and unfortunately, Wikipedia has nominated Harold Malmgren's Wikipedia page for deletion. And let's see what it says here. The late Harold Malmgren has catapulted to awareness in the wild corners of the internet populated by UFO enthusiasts due to his wacky claims about marauding space aliens. So here you have some skeptics on Wikipedia saying that this very distinguished gentleman who consulted 4 US presidents, that because of his beliefs concerning UFOs, that this makes his Wikipedia page something that actually is suitable for deletion, which is quite absurd. I mean, people go through different phases in life, and why would something that you do in one phase of life kind of like totally invalidate something that was achieved in your earlier phases of life? So nevertheless, Wikipedia is deleting or is in the process of deleting Harold Malmgren's Wikipedia page. And this is no surprise. This has been going on for well over a decade. In fact, my Wikipedia page was deleted back in 2012. Here's what it looked like back in 2012. Wikipedia did have a web page for me. Here you are, Michael Sala. It tells me, it told Wikipedia people about my kind of international teaching career and gave a kind of thumbnail description, nothing very exhaustive. But as I became more and more outspoken on the UFO issue, actually by 2012, I was already kind of fairly well known as an outspoken advocate of an extraterrestrial cover-up. But nevertheless, my Wikipedia page made it to 2012, and then editors came along and said, oh, this guy has this belief in these wacky theories of a UFO cover-up and extraterrestrials visiting us. He obviously doesn't belong here on Wikipedia, and my page was deleted. So now if anyone wants to kind of like do due diligence on me, Michael Sala, they go to Wikipedia, they type it in, they see nothing, and they think, oh, well, this guy, maybe he's just no one of significance, because if he was, he'd have a page on Wikipedia. So that's how they go about discrediting information and people. Well, I don't consider Christopher Mellon to be at the cutting edge of UFO disclosure, because he doesn't really reveal anything about successful corporate reverse engineering of retrieved UFOs, and he really does hype up the UFO threat. But even his page is now being targeted on Wikipedia for deletion. So this is happening soon after, or really around the same time, as Harold Malmgren's and Pippa Malmgren, his daughter's Wikipedia pages, are being threatened for deletion. Now, I mean, to me, this is kind of not not something that's a great surprise, because Wikipedia has been doing this, as I said, for well over a decade. But some people are suspicious because they think of Christopher Mellon as someone that's part of the deep state. And certainly John Warner IV, his cousin, believes that Christopher Mellon is part of the deep state, as that it really is a limited hangout that he's pushing out there, and to kind of like misdirect the public when it comes to UFO disclosure into another area. And if that's the case, then some people are saying, well, the deletion of Christopher Mellon's Wikipedia page is because this is a deep state operation, and so they delete the pages of Harold and Pippa Malmgren's, and so they figure, well, if they delete the page of Christopher Mellon, that there will be sympathy for him, and that his position will kind of get more legitimacy. So some people are going there. I don't know if that is the case. It could be, but I do know that Wikipedia does target prominent individuals or anyone of any kind of expert standing who is outspoken on the extraterrestrial front. And certainly I think this is something that Christopher Mellon has been doing over the last few years, or at least since Luis Elizondo came out. But I certainly don't think he goes far enough. And so I have my suspicions about that. Okay, so here is Elena Danaan discussing her latest book. It's gotten a lot of really wonderful reviews on Amazon because she spent 2 months on this alien world. And I'm about 2/3 or actually 3/4 of the way through the book, which I've enjoyed tremendously. And it discusses her 2 months there in a very harsh environment, but a beautiful environment with lots of challenging adventures and treasure troves of highly evolved souls and mysteries. So it is truly a fascinating read, and it is a journey of self-discovery that she went through. So I'm not surprised that this book is really taking off, or is getting so many positive views or comments by people. And for those that aren't familiar with the book, it describes how she spent 2 months on this alien world, which she was able to access through a stargate or a portal on the planet Neptune, and that she went there with 2 Nordics from the Galactic Federation of World, Thorhan, and a second whose name escapes me at the moment. And she spent 2 months with them there, and they all had to confront their kind of like past traumas, past issues, in order to be able to meet this ancient group of elders that go back many millennia. So anyway, I won't kind of talk more about the book. I think it's well worth you getting a copy, investing in that, and you can just go to Amazon, type in Elena Danaan, or type in Koldas, or Koldas, Koldas, and you will see that book. Okay, so here's a post by Mind's Eye Realized, and he has some very important things he says about reptilian blue bloods. So let's read a little bit of what he says. Thousands of years ago, reptilian shape-shifting extraterrestrials from the star system Orion interbred with human beings on our planet, creating a ruling class with distinct genetic traits, including copper-based blood that appears blue or green when oxidized. This is contrasted with human iron-based red blood. Okay, these elite and royal human bloodlines are descended from and hybridized with these reptilian extraterrestrials. These elites included the royal families, political leaders, entertainment industry, influential figures, and so on. By doing this, the reptilians can maintain power through secret societies like the Illuminati and globalist elite power structures. So it goes on to talk more and more about these ruling bloodlines, how they're connected with these reptilians, how that's all kind of connected to the whole shape-shifting reptilian genre that I think it was David Icke that first began talking about that in the 1990s. And I think this is definitely has a lot of very important points to consider. I mean, how much of this is truth? How much of it is accurate? How much is not? I don't know. It could be 50-50, 70-30, but definitely there is a lot of truth in here. So take a look at it. I think this talks a lot about how the system operates. And I mentioned earlier the Vatican and how that's controlled by these reptilians. And this speaks directly to that. This is how they do it. They have these shape-shifting beings that can look human at one point, but then in a private setting, they can just revert to reptilian and become very, very intimidating because they are quite the warrior race. Okay, here is a release by the U.S. National Archives. So this is what a news release by the U.S. National Archives. It said, new to maximize transparency, the National Archives has released new records related to unidentified anomalous phenomena. These records come from different branches of the government, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the Office of the Secretary of Defense, Federal Aviation Authority, and the national NRC. Not sure what that is. And so you can explore the UFO connection with just clicking this link. Now, I mean, there literally would be hundreds, if not thousands, of documents in the National Archives concerning UFOs that have been released to it by these different governmental bureaucracies, and that was because of legislation that was passed a couple of years ago, mandating the creation of a UAP archive in the National Archives that would pull together all of the UAP information from these different agencies. So, how important is this information? Now, I would say that a lot of this information in the National Archives that you can peruse now by going to the website concerns genuinely unidentified anomalies that really don't involve national security, because these are unknown in the genuine sense of an unknown object. And I think a lot of the National Archives images of these craft show those things. And some of them can be genuine UFOs, your classic flying saucer and so forth. But the records that have genuine national security concerns, these are held in classified facilities created by top aerospace corporations. Now, we know this because there was a whistleblower, a Mr. X, who went before Kerry Cassidy and Bill Ryan in 2006 and gave his testimony about Project Camelot. And he gave his testimony about there being this secret archive at a major aerospace corporation. I believe it was Rocketdyne, and that was eventually incorporated into the Boeing aircraft company. And he talked about this extensive archive detailing extraterrestrial spacecraft. So when we're talking about extraterrestrial spacecraft, we're talking about identified flying objects. We really need to distinguish between UFOs and IFOs, IFOs, identified flying objects, which are extraterrestrial or governmental reverse engineered craft. And these are the ones that major corporations possess extensive records of. But the National Archives won't have these identified flying objects. What they have instead are the unidentified, where it could be anything. It could be a flying saucer. It could be anything. All right, so here's my final story from the Twitter feed. And this is a remote viewing session that was conducted back in 2022. Okay, so this is a remote viewing session that's shared on the Inspired YouTube channel. And this was released 3 days ago, but the actual video it plays was put together in 2022, and it was created by Brett Stewart, who led a remote viewing team of 4 people into the concept of moksha, which is Sanskrit for liberation. And what he found was that it described the Earth as a well-designed prison, a prison planet headed by these immortal beings that really siphoned off energy from humanity, kind of loosh. Now, this is something that Brett Stewart found to be so disturbing that he decided to remove it from his channel. But thankfully, the Inspired channel has released the video. I no doubt they got Stewart's permission, I'm sure. And they've released the video, and it is now available. And it really is worth seeing. I mean, it is very disturbing, and I think it describes fairly accurately what I think the Earth is in terms of it being a prison planet overseen by different extraterrestrial groups, some of whom are immortals, and that they siphon off the energy of humanity. So take a look at that. Well worth it. And that's available on YouTube right now. So finally, what I want to announce is that next week, 1 week from today, will be my very next monthly briefing. I am resuming the monthly briefings after a hiatus of 2 months because of my illness. But I'm feeling so much better now, and I'm looking forward to doing this monthly briefing with you. And so that will be next week, Saturday at 2 p.m. And I also want to announce that due to scheduling conflicts, that the Dilemma of a Star Trek Future webinar, that has been delayed until at least June 27. I plan to confirm that pretty soon, but that's the next date that works for myself, Sarah Bressman, and George Cavasilis. So confirmation for that will be announced at the monthly briefing. So that's it for this week. Thank you for watching Exopolitics Today, the week in review, and I appreciate all of those that have supported me, especially through Patreon, which is a great way to support my channel and to kind of fund us as we do more and more of these videos and make them available to the general public for free. We release them on Patreon a day or two earlier, so you do have that kind of early access on Patreon. But all of my material, apart from the webinars and books, are made available for free. So supporting me through Patreon is really a great way to kind of support this mission, this Exopolitics mission. So thank you all, and aloha.
You have been listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Join or start a conversation in the comments. Take the time to explore the vast library of best-selling books, webinars, and podcasts by Dr. Salla. Visit exopoliticstoday.com.